Lamar advances to 3-1 over division rival Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Since these two have overlapped in the NFL, it's favored the Baltimore Ravens, despite both of these two players not being fully available to see them twice a year. So this has been a little bit of a rare thing to see. Either Lamar has been hurt or Joe Burrow has been hurt. Thankfully, we got to see them in an early week 2 clash, this time in Cincinnati. Baltimore has looked pretty solid despite numerous injuries. I mean, we're talking about 2 missing key pieces on the offensive line, Ronnie Stanley and Tyler Lindenbaum. Those are 2 integral pieces of that O-line. Plus, in the secondary, you have Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Williams. Those are Pro Bowl caliber players on a habitual year, and the fact that they're able to go in and also bottle up this supposedly high potent Cincinnati Bengals pass catching room, especially Jamar Chase, who we'll get into a little bit later, this is pretty good. A road win, first time on the road, divisional foe, and Ravens are looking pretty good despite missing key pieces. And to add on to that, they had Odell for a little bit, and then he left the game due to an ankle injury in the second half. And I don't know if that injury is going to be super serious. It seems that he'll be back for week 3, but that's something to keep an eye out for. Let's talk about Lamar. Lamar didn't have the best of games in the first game against the Houston Texans, and even in the first half, not the greatest, but second half definitely recovered, and they're finally utilizing ways to get Zay Flowers the ball. There was this feature, especially on this one drive, where they lofted a deep pass to him for like 60 yards and then used him in a couple of gadget plays. He couldn't get into the end zone for his first touchdown, but still, it's nice to see that they're utilizing him not in just the passing game, but the short passing game, motion, whatever it may be. He's like their Kadarius Toney, or they're just their gadget player in their offense. Todd Monken, new OC, already implementing things. I would like to see the running game get going a little bit more consistently, but at least throwing the ball, this is one of the more consistent things I've seen out of Lamar this year in terms of just not abandoning the pass, going for a run, which he can do. He's super fast and elusive, but him developing as a passer this year is just another thing to add to his arsenal and in his toolkit, and we're seeing that. I mean, this wide receiving room is deceptively deep. We talked about OBJ, but he was out for this game, so that meant Zay Flowers had to step up. We saw Nelson Aguilar score a touchdown, and they still have Rashad Bateman, who'll be coming back at some point, Duvernay as well. Adding in Mark Andrews, who finally made his season debut. This offense is looking pretty good in the passing attack, and once these O-linemen gets back into the fold, that running game is going to open up for Gus Edwards, who will be taking over the bulk of the carries as J.K. Dobbins is out due to that torn Achilles. I hate that for him. Yes, it hasn't been the greatest to start the first couple of weeks, but this offense is going to take some time, and you know, it's the first month, especially with teams that don't have a lot of preseason action. It takes time to implement, especially the starters who didn't play that much outside of maybe some joint practices in training camp. You know, you're going to get some growing pains the first 6 weeks of the season, but we'll see that transition hopefully in October. For the Bengals, 0-2 start off the year yet again. Disappointing, and this 0-2 start feels different. Why? The offense doesn't look that good. Jamar Chase in particular. Through 2 games, he has a measly 70 yards, and they're all short around the line of scrimmage. It's just depending on him to get by defenders, and I don't like how they're utilizing him. A lot of this offense is quick passes to the outside or quick outs, and trying to burn them deep. You don't see a lot of motion with this offense, and on top of it, the running game has been relatively silent, and that's again coming back to this offensive line woes that we've seen out of Cincinnati. Joe Burrow has struggled to start this year. I know he's trying to get us to relax, but he tweaked this calf injury too. And with next week, the LA Rams are coming into town. They have a really good defensive line that should shred this Bengals O-line once again, and if Joe is not available, 0-3 is looking straight at them, and they're already 2 games behind. I'm not saying their season is done. There's plenty of time. We can relax, but it's going to be a lot more of a fight just to get into the playoff mix, because now you're down 0-2 in your division, and this is their home game you lost to the Ravens, so you have to travel to Baltimore later this season, and you can't rely on Lamar getting hurt in November, December. I expect Lamar to be more consistent, especially be available, and I think the Ravens are off to a good start. They're only going to get better once his offense begins to fully mesh.